All right, good morning, everybody. Good morning and good evening to those of you who are all over the world. I know it is evening for some of you, so I know you see a little bit of a different layout today, but thank you for coming to our event. So today we have Preparing for Life in Dallas, Texas. I know you are so excited to move to Dallas. And so today I will be joined by our international peer advocate, Flower, and we are going to share with you all about getting ready to rent an apartment and get set up to live here and all the wonderful things to do here in Dallas, Texas. So my name is Katie Russo. I am the Assistant Director of Intercultural Programs here at UT Dallas. A few logistics for today. So like I said, we have a little bit of a different setup than you've been seeing at our events. Today, you can see and hear us, but we cannot see or hear you. So we will take questions at the end, but you'll just be able to type them in. So we'll turn on the Q&A function at the end of the event, and you'll be able to type questions in the comment box on the right side of your screen once we turn on the Q&A function. And Flower and I will take those questions later on. Closed captioning is available. It's actually available in multiple languages. So if you look for the CC button on the bottom right of your screen, you'll see that, and you can turn on the closed captions in multiple languages if you need some extra language support throughout the session. So next slide, please. All right, so let's talk about preparing for life in Dallas. I know it's very intimidating to move to a new country. So what are those first steps that you need to take? So of course, the first step is finding housing. Next slide, please. So of course, UT Dallas offers on-campus housing. So on-campus housing is obviously a very good option for you. So some of you might have already looked into this. It's close to classes and campus amenities, obviously. It's on campus. There's 24-hour on-call staff for you. So there's student workers on call. There's also professional staff who live in the buildings, and they're on call for you 24 hours a day. One thing to keep in mind is it fills up fast. So you'll want to check availability before you choose to go ahead and start looking into that on-campus housing. So I've included the address here on the slide to look into that availability. So we've been sending out links for you guys in email, so you might have already looked at that. It does require a partially non-refundable application fee. That's why I wanted to make sure to give you guys that link before you go ahead and apply, and you have to pay that application fee, and then all of a sudden you realize, well, there's no on-campus housing. But if you don't get on-campus housing this semester, that doesn't mean you can't apply to live next semester. So just take a look at that. On-campus housing at UTD is really awesome. So I've included some pictures. You can see that some of our on-campus housing has pools. It's really pretty. It's really nice because it's so close to your classes. You'll get to meet a lot of your peers here at UT Dallas, and it's a really great way to socialize with students. We have several different types of on-campus housing. So University Commons, that's going to be your traditional dormitory style on-campus housing. So when you think of living on campus, this is that traditional style. So it's actually suite style. So you'll share kind of a suite with 2 different rooms, I believe, and you get a shared bathroom as well. So it's completely furnished and you have a little suite with students. It does not have a kitchen or anything like that. It's just a traditional dorm style residence hall. But there is a kitchen in the dorm that's shared by all students. So if you do want to cook food, you can. So maybe you want to, you're missing your mom's best meal. She sends you her recipe. You can cook it in the shared kitchen that's for the entire building, but you don't get a kitchen in your actual room. Now, you do have to purchase a meal plan when you're living in the University Commons, but that's great because then you can go and eat in the campus dining hall or something like that, which is really great. The campus dining hall is kind of awesome on our campus, to be honest. They have really good food. Now we also have apartments. So there's 2 different styles of apartments. There is University Village, and that's completely unfurnished. So you would have to furnish this yourself. So you'd have to buy your own bed, a dresser, a desk, chairs, anything like that. And then we also have Canyon Creek Heights. Canyon Creek Heights is actually our newest on-campus housing. It opened, I want to say, in 2017. So it was a few years ago, but it's still new, and that's completely furnished. So the apartments, they're bedrooms, living room, bathroom, and kitchen. So you have all the amenities of an apartment. And so I've also included the link to apply online. So it's just if you go to the University Housing's website and they have the apply online link, and you can apply through the University Housing portal. So on-campus housing is definitely an option. Next slide, please. So a lot of you might choose to live off campus. Maybe the space that you're looking for on campus isn't available, or maybe you just don't want to live on campus. Whatever you want is completely fine. A few things to think about when you're searching for off-campus housing. How close is it to campus? So what is the proximity to campus? Obviously, your classes are on campus. You're going to be needing to get to and from campus. You don't want to live 2 hours away from campus, right? What amenities are provided? So we'll go through that in a little bit. What is the cost? So how expensive is it? Does it fit into your budget? Think about utilities too. So electricity, cable, internet. How much are you going to be paying for this? But don't let this be the only factor. Kind of remember that saying, you get what you pay for. Think about that, okay? Also the size. So how many bedrooms is it? How big is the apartment? How many people can live in the apartment as well? So how many roommates are you going to have? Are you allowed to have 2 people per bedroom? There's certain laws that restrict that in the city of Dallas. So just remember that when you're looking for an apartment, and look through the lease, look through all the regulations. So think about that, because you probably will have roommates and you want to make sure that you can split up those costs and everything like that. How easy is it to access different stores, restaurants, public transportation? Is it on the bus line to UT Dallas? Because that's going to make it really easy to get to and from campus. Is it on the DART line, the Dallas Area Rapid Transit? Flower's going to talk a little bit about that. So that's an easy way for you to access different stores, restaurants, shopping areas, things like that. And take a look at the safety and appearance of the neighborhood. Obviously, that's something that you want to consider, right? You want to make sure that you're living in an area that you think is safe, that your mom thinks is safe, right? So that's something that you want to think about. And I'll give you some information on how to find that information on one of my next slides. So actually, next slide, please. So most apartments, when it comes to amenities, will include a refrigerator, a stove, and an oven. So that's going to be in the kitchen, of course. So you don't have to worry about that. Those pretty much are going to be all included. Now, some apartments might include a dishwasher. That's awesome. So you don't have to worry about scrubbing your dishes. Some apartments may include a microwave. And some might include a washer and dryer for your clothes. Sometimes they'll be in your apartment. Sometimes they'll just be in the complex and it's like a shared laundry space. Sometimes they don't have those at all. So you might have to take your clothes to a laundromat or something like that and pay extra to wash your clothes. So these are things that you need to decide, are those important to you to have in your apartment? Do you want to pay extra to have those things? It's really up to you. Other amenities that some apartments might have that might be a little bit of an extra cost when you're looking at apartments are like a swimming pool, a gym. Sometimes they have community spaces that you can use, like a TV room or a party room, something like that, like a lounge space where you can have friends over and you can socialize. A lot of apartment complexes start to have those types of things. So those are just things to look at when you're looking for apartments. Those do often make the price go up a little bit. So again, those are just things to factor into your budget. Now, like I mentioned, utilities will often cost extra. So when you're looking at the price of your apartment, take a look at the cost of your lease and how much you're paying and see what utilities are included and what utilities you'll have to pay for. So sometimes water is something you have to pay for extra because it's maybe charged through the city. So you might have to actually pay a water bill. But it also, sometimes an apartment complex might pay that water bill and just include that into your rent. It just depends on the apartment complex. Same with gas. that also might be the same way. Usually you'll have to set up your own electricity, internet service, TV service. Those are things that you'll have to pay for on your own. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to do that, so don't worry. But those are things that you just have to think about when you're setting up your apartment and looking at your budget. So I know that sounds a little intimidating, but these are all questions that you'll want to talk to the landlord or the apartment management company about. So when you're reading your lease, you can say, okay, so they're paying my water bill. That's really good. I don't have to worry about setting that up, and I don't have to worry about paying that extra bill. Or if it doesn't say that, you can ask them like, okay, well, what about water? How does that get taken care of? And do I need to pay extra for that? Will I get a bill from the city? You can ask them those questions. It never hurts to ask them those questions. It's always good to ask questions when you're talking to that management company. All right, next slide, please. All right, so now you know a little bit how to look for an apartment. How do you select an apartment? So I always like to look at online reviews. So the internet is your best friend, right? So I have a few websites on here, so you can find some online reviews for apartments. So I have a few different websites that are really helpful. So apartmentratings.com, apartments.com/reviews, rent.com, Renter's Voice. These are all really good places to look for apartments because they're actually people who rented the apartments. They can give you actual feedback on what the management company was like, what the landlord was like, how the apartment was. They might include pictures of the actual apartment. So this will give you some real feedback of what the apartment was like. I mentioned talking about the safety and appearance. You can find crime statistics on the city's website. So I'm not intending to scare you, but I mean, Dallas is a big city, right? And in all big cities, we have crime. And so it's always a good idea to look up public data and to look up information about where you're living. So just to see. So you can find that information on the City of Richardson website. City of Richardson is where UT Dallas is located. So I have the City of Richardson posted there, and on the City of Dallas website. So I have Dallas City Hall's website listed there as well. They post this information because it's considered public data and public information for residents. So I'll tell you, when I rented my very first apartment by myself, that's the first thing I did. My boss gave me that as a recommendation. He said, call the police department and ask them, give them the 3 apartments that you're looking at and ask them which one is the safest neighborhood. And they told me, don't rent in this neighborhood, but these 2 neighborhoods are perfect. And so that was really good information for me to use. And so it's really helpful, because it made me feel a lot safer when I was staying in the neighborhood, and I ended up having really good neighbors who were really kind and really helpful to me. And you can also check for pictures online. Google Maps, you can use the Google Maps Street View. That's always really nice. You can ask current students too to see if they know any information like that. So if they have any pictures or anything like that. Later on, Flower is going to talk a little bit about the Comet Cruiser. There's many apartments along this route, and so I've included a link here to the Comet Cruiser, and so you can copy and paste that link if you want. But there's so many apartments on the Comet Cruiser route. A lot of students choose to live on the Comet Cruiser route because it makes it really easy to get to and from campus. And so you'll see that there's so many apartment complexes, and you'll be able to meet a lot of other UT Dallas students this way, and that makes it really helpful. There is also this Dallas off-campus housing site. Now, I will tell you, this is not affiliated with UT Dallas, so it's not run by UT Dallas, but the Dallas off-campus housing site chooses to serve UT Dallas students. So this company wants to help UT Dallas students. So they are offering, or they post apartments specifically serving UT Dallas students. So a lot of their apartments are being rented by UT Dallas students, but it's not connected to UTD in any way. But it is a very helpful website because a lot of students choose to rent and choose to find apartments through this website. I mentioned talking to current students. Cultural student organizations are a very good website. So we have the Friendship Association of Chinese Students and Scholars, the Indian Student Association, the Vietnamese International Network of Culture, Education, and Friendship. So those are some of the cultural student organizations. There's also BSO, the Bangladeshi Student Organization. I've listed our intercultural programs housing webpage. So I have a whole list of cultural student organizations who've helped out students in the past find housing. So you can contact student organizations this way. If you go to our webpage, they will not only give you some recommendations on housing, they will often assist students with finding temporary housing. So keep in mind, due to COVID-19, some of these organizations might not be able to help you with temporary housing this semester. It doesn't hurt to ask. You can always send them an email and just see, can I stay with someone for a week just when I get to town? Like I said, due to COVID-19, that might be a little bit tricky, but you can always ask. However, they can always give you recommendations. So they could say, oh, I actually need a roommate this semester. Would you like to live with me? Something like that. Or I know someone who's looking for a roommate. Let's see if we can connect the two of you. So you can always check with a cultural student organization to see if they know of any available apartments or if they know if an apartment is a good place to live. So current students are really good resources, and that's why I always recommend talking to the cultural student organizations, because they have some of the best information about what is a good apartment, where is a good place to live, and some of those processes for getting an apartment, because they have gone through the process themselves and they really understand it. Okay, next slide, please. So now that you've found your apartment, what do? You'll have to submit an application to the apartment complex. There's always paperwork involved, right? So you can call, email, or check the apartment website for more information. Some apartments will require a non-refundable application fee. So I know it sounds crazy, but you have to apply to rent the apartment. So sometimes there is maybe a $50 or $100 application fee associated with applying, and you don't always get that money back, even if you don't get accepted to rent the apartment. Now, some apartment complexes will require an additional fee if you don't have a social security number. Now, I know that most of you probably don't already have a social security number because you are not here in the United States. So you can't get a social security number until you have a job here in the United States. So that's just something to be aware of. You might have to pay an additional fee. Most apartments will not accept cash. So it's also not recommended to bring large amounts of cash with you. That's really just a safety concern. I would hate for you to lose that kind of money. So you'll have to ask them, how would you like this payment? So maybe you have an American bank account and they accept some kind of transfer. Maybe they want a wire transfer. Maybe it's by credit card. That's a good conversation to have with that apartment complex. What is the best way for you to pay them that money? Maybe it's through PayPal or some other kind of electronic transfer in that way. So a lot of apartments are now accepting those types of electronic payments. And that's the wonderful thing about the world today. It's making it a lot easier, right? I will caution you to read your lease very thoroughly, okay? So you're signing a very important document. You are bound by everything that is written in that lease. So you want to read it, every word of it. So review the length of your lease. So is it 1 year? Is it 6 months? Is it 8 months? What is the start date and the end date? So exactly when can you move in? When does the lease end? What are the terms, the rules? What is everything included in your lease? So what is your landlord paying? What are you paying? What are any termination fees? Could you get kicked out for any reason? Read everything very clearly. So I'll give you an example. When I was living in my last apartment, I was charged $500 when I moved out because I did not clean my oven. Okay. $500 to me is ridiculous, but it was written in my lease that I would be charged a cleaning fee of $500 if I did not clean my oven. And I signed that lease saying that I accepted those terms. And that was my fault. And if I had remembered that I had signed an agreement saying that I accepted those terms, I would have been on my hands and knees scrubbing my oven with some oven cleaner before I moved out. But I really just ignored it and thought, I don't need to clean my oven, who cares? But they charged me $500. I mean, I could have probably bought a new oven for $500. But yes, they charged me $500. So learn from my mistake and read this very thoroughly so you're not charged a lot of money like that. If you have any questions, discuss those with that management company or that landlord. I highly recommend it because, like I said, you're signing this and you're agreeing to everything. So especially things like how many people are allowed to live in this apartment? Does everybody's name need to be listed on the lease? Are you allowed to have overnight guests? Are you allowed to have parties? Are you allowed to have pets? All these types of things should be included in your lease, and you need to make sure that you review them because you're signing this agreement and you're agreeing to abide by all these rules and regulations. Next slide, please. Looks like we have a little bit of a delay. It's okay. Here we go. Okay, so now that you have your apartment, like I mentioned, you have to set up utilities. The first thing you'll want to do is set up electricity. So there's a really great website in Texas called choosetexaspower.org. So you have multiple electricity companies that you can go with in Texas. Texas has several different electricity companies, and I can't really recommend any particular one. That's why this website, choosetexaspower.org, is really helpful. So it lists all the different electric companies in Texas, and you can choose yourself which electric company you want to use and which plan you want to use. So this website will show you the different plans available from the different companies and what options you have based on your budget. And the nice thing is a lot of the companies will give you discounts based on the time of day you'll be using electricity, when you'll be home, how many electronic devices. So think about that. So some of them will give you a discount like, oh, free nights and weekends. You're not paying for electricity if it's Saturday, or you get your top electric use days free. And so talk to your roommates, think about how many electronic devices you guys have, when are you going to be home the most? So kind of think about that. When I just redid my electric company, and I actually looked at my most recent electric bill, and I looked at, they call it kilowatt hours. And so I looked at how many kilowatt hours my husband and I used and when we used them the most. And I narrowed it down, and I found out that the best plan for us was like a free nights and weekends plan, because we use the most electricity in the evenings and on the weekends. And that would work the best for us because we would save the most amount of money by having those types of electric plans. And so I was able to save us a couple $100s a year by choosing a plan that did that. And usually in Texas, you sign a plan for a year and then you have to renew that plan each year. And so if you choose a plan for a year and you end up realizing, well, I could get a cheaper plan, then you can choose a plan for the next year. So it sounds kind of intimidating, but talk to your roommates that you plan to live with and see what works best for your group. And then you can always re-sign a new plan the next year. Similar with internet, so there's several different internet companies you can use. So you're going to need internet probably to do homework, to talk to your families, all those things. Spectrum, AT&T, Verizon, those are all common providers here in the United States. Just remember that not all providers are available everywhere. And so check with your zip code. You can log on to their websites. You can look at the zip code of your apartment complex and see if that provider is available in your region. And then you'll be able to know what are the plans they have, what is the coverage, what is the best. I also recommend talking to those cultural student organizations and current students and see what's their experience with particular internet companies. I know that internet is not always my forte, and so see what experience they've had. They might have some good recommendations for you. Other utilities you might want to think about is cable. So I know we've got a lot of cord cutters recently. Not everybody chooses to get cable TV. A lot of people choose to just use streaming services like Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and all that, and just use internet instead. But it might be an option for you. So you might want to choose to get cable. So that's something that you can look at. A lot of these companies like Spectrum and AT&T offer internet cable packages. So you might be able to find some kind of deal for yourself. I mentioned some of these other utilities earlier, like gas and water. You might also have to pay for trash removal, depending on the apartment complex, but that also might be included in your lease. So these are just things that might be charged to you through the city of Richardson or the city of Dallas, depending on what city you're living in. All right, next slide, please. All right, my last couple slides are on banking. So you've got your apartment set up, you've got your utility set up. Now, how are you going to pay for it? Set up your American bank account. So there are a variety of bank accounts with different benefits. So you'll want to kind of research the accounts, see what's best for you, because everyone has different banking needs, right? You can call the banks and they are going to be happy to discuss the different options with you. So I actually called a few banks in the area and they were able to tell me a little bit about banking with international students and what they could do. You can actually find a lot of information on their websites to check what you need to have in order to set up a bank account online, or you can call them. Typically, you'll need some kind of ID, so some kind of government issued ID. Your passport should work just fine, and some kind of initial deposit money. So a check or some kind of wire transfer is common. Since you probably don't have a social security number, you'll need another form of ID, such as a driver's license. Some of them will accept a university ID card, so maybe your Comet card once you get here to the university, an I-20. Some of them will also accept a university's acceptance letter. So like I said, you can contact the banks to ask them, and it just depends on the bank's policies. A few banks near UT Dallas are Wells Fargo, Chase, and I actually was able to contact Chase, and they told me that they require an I-20 along with your passport if you don't have a social security number. If you're a J1 student, I imagine they would accept like a DS 2019, so an I-20 or a DS 2019 would probably suffice, but just check with them. There's also Bank of America. And then BBVA is another bank, and I was able to contact them as well, and they told me they require a visa and passport if you don't have a social security number. So I wasn't able to get a hold of Wells Fargo and Bank of America, but like I said, if you want to contact them, I imagine they have similar policies to both Chase and BBVA. All of these banks are very similar. They probably have very similar policies, and so they have they'll be able to work with international students. Next slide, please. Just a quick overview of the different types of accounts you could get at a bank. You probably know a lot of these just because it's what you use in your home countries. There's the checking account, and this is something you would use for daily use, shopping, bills, making payments. Typically, a checking account doesn't accrue interest, and it would usually be connected to your debit card. And so you would just use this to pay for things at stores or withdraw money from an ATM, or you can also use paper checks from your checking account. So, and this is also something that you would get money direct deposited into. So if you have a job, like an on-campus job, your money would be direct deposited into your checking account. And then you could also get a savings account. And so this is what you'd want to use to save money over long term. And so this is what typically accrues interest. So you can save money in your savings account, and then it would build money eventually. However, savings account usually has some kind of limitation on how often you can withdraw money from it. So I think my savings account, I can only withdraw money from it maybe twice a month without getting a penalty. So that's why I just transfer money from my checking account into my savings account and let it stay there until I absolutely need money from my savings account for whatever I'm saving for. But that's good because it encourages me to save money, and I can save money for big purchases or vacations or something like that. And then a credit card. So this is the payment card that allows you to pay for items throughout the month, and then you can make payments as needed. So maybe you have like a big purchase that you don't have enough money in your checking account for, but you need to maybe buy a plane ticket for, or a TV or something like that. If you don't pay off all that money at the end of the month, it will accrue interest on that debt or those charges. So credit card does have its benefits. Now, some credit cards will give you bonus points. Like, for example, I have an Amazon.com credit card. And so I get points to Amazon whenever I spend money on it. And so I get money to use towards Amazon, but I have to pay off my money at the end of the month, or else I get a huge, like 20% interest charged to me, which is not worth it in my opinion. So I pay off my balance in full at the end of every month, so I don't have to get all those charges. But it's also nice because if I have to buy a last minute plane ticket, what if I have an emergency with my family or something like that, and I have to buy a last minute plane ticket and I don't have enough money in my checking account, I can use my credit card, and then I can take money out of my savings to pay off that credit card immediately or something like that. So a credit card is nice to get some of those bonuses as long as you have enough money to pay for it at the end of the month. Next slide, please. And I think we are on to Flower. So I'm going to put Flower on screen.
Thank you, Katie. So on to cell phones. As we all know, cell phones are an integral part of our everyday lives. And especially now that you've moved away from home, you'll definitely need a cell phone to stay connected with your loved ones. And to navigate your new environment, there's a lot of exciting things for you to explore and just discover. So here in America, there's a plethora of plans for you to use, different providers, and each and every one of them just fits to everybody's needs. So you definitely want to be able to look into a plan before you do like lock something down, to make sure that you're getting the plan and the contract that works best for your lifestyle. So some things to look at is you need to look at the plan limits for data usage, how much talk time you have, how many messages you're allowed to send, and what other charges you'll have to pay on that plan. So we do have some plans that are unlimited where you pay one fee and you get unlimited talk time, unlimited messaging, unlimited data, unlimited hotspot. However, if you're not much of a phone user, you know that you're either on internet a lot or you're not sending that many messages, it is a better option for you to look at something that's limited and something that's more tailored to your needs. You should also consider whether you need to make international calls. So international calls can get very pricey, and especially if you're not on a plan that either covers international calls or using a platform that will be able to facilitate you to make that international call over the internet. So make sure that you're staying on top of it, because at the end of it, like, we're all in college, no one wants to end up paying a $400 bill because you made an international call and you had to use your plan. You should also look into what service and coverage you get with your provider and what type of devices the plan offers. So some plans will offer you, or some providers will offer you a device together with your plan. However, that device is locked to that service provider. So for instance, if I'm using T-Mobile, I cannot just like pop out the SIM card and put in an AT&T SIM card on a T-Mobile phone, because the phone is programmed just to work for T-Mobile. So if you have a device that's unlocked, you are able to use whatever provider you want. But if you are going to purchase the device from the provider, make sure that when you total up the service and the cost of the phone, that you are able to stay within your budget. The contracts also, just like rent, you will sign a contract with your phone provider, and the different contracts do have different lengths and different like requirements on them. So be sure to look at how long the contract is, what things you need to like, how to put this, like just the requirements that you have and the minimum payments that you need, the payments that you need to make, and whatever restrictions you do have on that very contract that you sign. So current students will have some great advice and recommendation. So be sure to contact your cultural organizations, any friends that you may have here, any friends that you do make here who arrived before you and have set these things up. They are a great resource. So make sure that you talk to people, talk to your fellow students, and just get the best advice on what plan would work best for you. So some popular cell phone providers here in the US are Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, and Sprint, but there are so many others that I have not listed, so be sure to look into it, go online, use the internet, and just find out which plans and which providers and how much things cost. You can typically find a retail location for your chosen provider, or you may be able to set things up online. So you just need to give them a call and you're able to set up your cell phone use and your line and get your phone number. Another great perk, if you do choose to change providers, you are able to retain your phone number on a lot of the major providers. So for instance, if you're moving from AT&T to T-Mobile, you are able to request them to switch your line over from AT&T to T-Mobile. So you're not gonna have to tell people hey, I have a new number just because you want to switch providers. Next slide, please. So now that you're here in Dallas, you will definitely need a way to get around. And the great thing is UTD and the city of Dallas have great public transportation options. The Comet Cruiser Route 883 is a designated UTD bus system that goes to and from campus on several different routes. So there are many shops, restaurants, and other places that are on the Comet Cruiser route. And the best part is it's totally free for UTD students. So you don't need any form of ID. You don't need any payments to ride. You literally just hop on the bus and get off and you stop wherever you want to go. And it's also very convenient that you are able to view the schedule and the bus map online. So you are able to track and plan your day out a lot better rather than try and just hope the bus is going to be there when you're there. And if you're looking to travel outside of Dallas, or sorry, not outside of Dallas, outside of the UTD area, you are able to use the DART system. So DART includes the train and bus systems in Dallas. This will help you get into downtown Dallas and move within the area that the DART does service. And as a UTD student, more perks. You are able to get a free DART pass once you register for your classes. You can also view the schedule and the routes that the bus and the train will frequent on their webpage, and you are able to apply for a free pass. So if you visit the UTD Transportation Service page, if you type it up there, you will be able to see the DART and how to get a pass. And they'll let you know when to collect your pass and what information you need to provide in order to get a pass. And for those of you who do plan to drive while you're here in Dallas, you will definitely need to apply for a driver's license. So you can visit the Texas Department of Public Safety's webpage to apply. Some things that you do need to keep in mind for your driver's test: you'll need to take a written test and a driving test. So for your written test, there are options where I think you can take it, yes, you can take it online or you can take it at a testing station. You'll also need to purchase a parking pass if you plan on getting a car and driving to campus in order for you to park on campus and not get your car towed or something or get a ticket. So parking passes can be purchased online. Just visit the webpage listed, or if you go to Dallas website, just look up parking pass. You'll be able to see the different passes that we have, because we do have various passes to fit everybody's budget. So the different passes are color coded, so they let you know whatever colored pass you buy, will determine where you're allowed to park on campus. And you can definitely reach out to the transport office, the parking transport office, if you have any questions, and they'll definitely be able to assist you better. Next slide, please. Oh, onto my favorite one, food. So now that you know how to get around, let's talk about shopping. So purchasing groceries in the US might be a little bit different than your home country. As mentioned, there are a lot of popular stores along the common cruiser route, which makes things very, very convenient for you. And excuse me, some of the stores include Tom Thumb, which is a really nice option, as it has a grocery, it sells groceries, it has a bakery, it also has a pharmacy, and it also has some other basic items that you may need. Walmart and Target are also very popular chains here in America, and they also do have groceries, clothes, they have pharmacies in them, they have furniture and other household items. So the prices when it comes to like the stores are typically very fair. So it is not about to break your pocket if you need to go buy groceries for the week or for the month. Um, However, some stores such as Sprouts are great options for organic and natural foods. However, the prices may be a little bit higher than the prices you're going to find in like Walmart and Target. Also, a great thing about stores like Walmart and Target, if you don't want to go to a store like Sprouts or if it's not convenient for you, these stores also do offer some organic foods. So you just have to look at the sticker on the item that you're purchasing to see if it's organic or if it's not like listed as an organic item. So a few shopping tips, just so that you're a little bit prepared and it makes things a little bit easier for you. So the first tip I'd tell you is get the grocery stores app if there is one. So this will allow you to create an account. You're able to get coupons, so we're saving on money, and you're also able to get other discounts. Another great thing about using the app is that it does help you budget a lot better because you're able to see what you need to buy ahead of time and purchase it ahead of time. I know I am guilty where if I go in the store, chances are I'm going to leave with a lot more than I need to leave with and spend a lot more money. So the shopping app has come to be very convenient. And it also helps you, like if you're on a schedule, like if it's in the middle of the week and you needed to do your grocery shopping, or if you had errands to run, you're able to schedule a time to pick up your groceries or have them delivered to you. So lots of convenience. It helps you with planning, and it's a great resource. I personally really love the shopping app that I use. Also, talk to your roommates if you do have any about splitting up shopping costs and duties. It definitely will be able to save a lot of time and money. And be sure to have this conversation way ahead of time, not just like halfway through living with each other. It's like, oh, how are we going to set up this shopping system? So definitely splitting the cost will be able to help, because a lot of things that people use, like onions and stuff like that, these are things that we all tend to use in a lot of our dishes. So if you're able to share the cost, definitely go for it. Talk to your roommates or the people you're going to live with for however long your lease length is. So you do want to be able to cut on costs where you can. Also consider shopping in bulk if you can. So often when you buy items, like larger items are going to cost a lot less. And in the long run, you are going to use them for a much longer time. So things like toilet paper, paper towels, whatever it is, try to see if you can get things in bulk. And it will help you budget better, where you don't have to rush to the store every week for toilet paper, you know? And then just a caveat for y'all, most stores will require for you to wear a mask right now based on your vaccination status. So be sure if you're vaccinated, if you're not vaccinated, just be sure to be courteous to protect those around you, protect yourself also, and to help keep the businesses open and running. And finally, don't forget to take into consideration how you're about to transport your things after you shop. So for instance, if you're about to buy your monthly grocery shopping haul, you're about to have a bunch of things, a lot of bags, a lot of heavy items, you definitely don't want to be taking the bus with that much shopping, just because it's not going to be very convenient and comfortable for you. So you would like to look either into other transport like options. Either you ask a friend to take you or pick you up, or you ask to borrow somebody's car if you're able to drive, or you use other public transport systems like Uber and Lyft to be able to have more room and a better space for you to carry your things. And they'll drop you off closer to your house so you don't have to walk around with all these shopping bags struggling on your own. Next slide, please. So in Dallas, we also do have a lot of international grocery stores in the area. A few popular options that we have are Patel Brothers and Indian Bazaar for Indian food. They do offer a lot of international foods in there. I was very surprised going in there and finding food from my home country, Kenya, and snacks that I ate when I was younger. So definitely check out the stores. H Mart also has a variety of foods from Asia, such as Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and Vietnamese food. Fiesta is also a large grocery chain that offers Mexican food. We also have Central Market, which is an organic grocery store that offers food from around the world. And just like Sprouts and other organic stores like Whole Foods, prices at the stores are a little bit higher just because they also cater to a certain kind of clientele where you're more interested in the organic food. So the options are definitely there. There's a lot that you can be able to get here in Dallas if you feel like making food from home. Don't worry, there's a lot of ingredients. And if you're not able to find things in store, you do also have an online option. A lot of the stores do offer some items that are exclusively online, or if they're out of stock in store, you are able to get them either delivered to the store for free pickup, or you can have them delivered to your house. So whatever works for you best. There are lots of options, lots of resources to help you make your meals, delicious, delicious meals at home. Next slide, please. So on to restaurant. So let's be honest, no one wants to cook every night. And the great thing is about the Dallas area is that you do not have to. There's so many delicious restaurants in our area that you just have to try. So remember, it's customary to leave a tip for your server. Typically 15 to 20% of your bill is sufficient, but you can vary it however you want depending on the service you received. So if you feel like you want to really appreciate your server and they did a great job, they served you, they were very attentive, go ahead, live 20% tip or even more if you want. And if you feel like you don't want to leave a tip on your tab, you are also able to tip them in cash. So it is very convenient. If you don't have any cash on you, you can use your debit card, credit card, whatever form of payment, and just add the tip onto the bill. And for some of the restaurants, they do have the tip calculated for you at the bottom, the different like percentages. So it makes things a lot easier for you. However, I will let you know something to look out for. Some restaurants do automatically add a gratuity to your bill, which is the same as a tip. So be sure to check your bill just to make sure that if the restaurant does add gratuity to it, you can either top it up if you want to add more and really appreciate your server, or you can just leave it as it is. But that's just to help you make sure that you do stay within your budget. I'm a college student. I know budgeting is something that's very important. It's something that's very big. So just look out for it. Make sure that you're not like going over your budget and you are able to still show appreciation to the people who do service. Some restaurants also do provide curbside pickup, especially in this time that we're in. We've been in pandemic, COVID-19. So if you feel that you're not comfortable going into a restaurant, but you still want to have their food and you do not want to pay for like delivery and stuff, you do have the option to pick up your food curbside. So you just go wait outside the restaurant and they bring out your food, check in on your phone or whatever device you're using, and they will bring out your food outside for you. And a tip is really nice in that situation. However, it's not usually required. And most restaurants are now allowing dine-in, which is amazing. So you may be requested to wear a mask. So in Texas, as much as there's the mask mandate, there's the rules we have for masks. Businesses do have the option to decide whether or not they want their customers to wear a mask or to require them to wear a mask. So don't feel any kind of way if you walk into a store and they ask you to have a mask on. At the end of the day, they are at liberty to request you to wear a mask, especially depending on your vaccination status. However, especially at restaurants, you are allowed to remove your mask while you're eating. So you're not going to sit there with your food and a mask on. Like, I feel like that would just be a little ludicrous if they did. So be sure to confirm ahead of time the policy that the store you're about to go into or the restaurant you're about to go into has in regard to masks. So we all make sure we take care of everybody in our community and we also take care of ourselves. So you may also opt for a night in and still want food delivered to your home. So some restaurants do offer delivery, and you can check this on their webpage. They typically will list whether they offer delivery or if they use a third-party app to deliver the food. So some of the popular apps that we have here in Dallas are DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, and Favor, and there's also many others. And you'll typically be charged a fee for delivery, service charge or something. They do list the charges that they have for you before you check out, so you are always in the know, like what exactly you're paying for. And even in the situation, since you do have an individual who's coming out to your house, taking their time getting your food and driving it to your home, you should leave a tip for the person who's delivering your food. So 10% is usually a fine amount to leave for them, but you can give more or less depending on your service. At times, like you're getting food from a restaurant that's a little bit further away, so you know that they have to make a longer trip. So it's great to show them that appreciation and that, like what they're doing is great and that, we're grateful. Next slide, please. On to my final slide. So there are also a lot of amazing restaurants along the Comet Cruiser route, and they all have such delicious food. So food in the US is very, very diverse. And in larger cities like Dallas, we have even more options, which is great. Especially if you're a foodie like me, always want to try out something new, something fresh, cuisine from different parts of the world. So this is a list of some popular places around UTD and what type of food they serve. So we got Stony Brian's that has great barbecue. You got Palio's Pizza Cafe. You got Mi Cocina for some great Mexican food. You got Rodeo Goat for burgers. Olive Garden if you're in the mood for some Italian food. We got Bun Block for Asian food. There's so many more restaurants that we definitely haven't even listed here. So definitely recommend that you check out Google Maps. It's going to be a great resource for you to be able to discover what food places are around. If you don't have Google Maps, we do also have Apple Maps or just Google things. You can look up restaurants around me, or you can use applications such as Yelp just to be able to see what restaurants are around you. The kind of wait times they have, because at times restaurants do get very, very busy, especially now that they are taking dine-in services. Everyone's excited to support our local businesses and whatever food chains we have. So be sure to just call ahead of time to see if you need a reservation. See if there's a dress code for the restaurants. Some restaurants do require certain dress code. Just do your research. I just tell you that, do your research. Read online reviews. Like Katie said, the internet is your friend. So make sure you research whatever place you're trying to go to, just to set a certain kind of expectation for you, and just so you know what you're in for. And if you like to, experiment, live it up to fate, go ahead. Hey, it's whatever you feel like doing. So overall, there's so much for you to explore here in Dallas, and there's so many resources that will aid in making your stay a lot more comfortable. So be sure to utilize our resources. Be sure to look online. Be sure to ask questions, ask your peers, ask those around you who may have more experience living here in Dallas, and just have a great time in Dallas. And with that, I'd like to hand it back to Katie and open the floor for the Q&A section.
Thank you, Flower. So yes, oh, we have so much good food here in the US and here in Dallas. I think in Dallas we have one of the most like diverse groupings of restaurants. I'm constantly finding new restaurants. I was just told yesterday by a UTD staff member about a Polish restaurant, and I am not Polish by descent, but my best friend is, and I am super excited to check out this Polish restaurant and check out their pierogies to see if they're as good or better than don't tell my best friend, because my best friend is Polish and made me pierogies when I went to visit her a couple weeks ago. So yes, I will be checking out this Polish restaurant. But I have just opened the Q&A for chat. So if you have any questions about what Flower and I have just presented on, please post your questions and we'll be answering them in the order they are posted. I also published a bunch of links. So if you scroll to the top of the chat function or the Q&A, you'll be able to see it. I posted the ICP website, and I know I copied and pasted them from a Word document. So I posted the ICP website, our orientation and checklist, also our new student guide, and where you can find all of our teams videos. There's a lot of information also about COVID vaccinations and the Student Health Center. So take a look at those links because they might answer a lot of the questions that you have. But I will start answering some of these questions, and Flower, please feel free to chime in. So our first question is, what restaurant is preferred for Indian food delivery? So I don't know the answer to this question. I actually don't get a lot of Indian food. So Flower, have you gotten Indian food delivered? Do you have any ideas on this, or I guess any of our other team members have any recommendations or thoughts on this?
I have. I do really like a restaurant known as Momtaz. And if you're around campus, there's Swadeshi that's nearby. Like there's honestly so many restaurants. If you look up, like I said, if you look it up online, just look up on Yelp or on Google, like Indian restaurants near me, you'll see all the great options that do deliver to your area. So I feel like there's a little bit of a caveat in the sense that some places don't deliver everywhere. Like there is like a delivery radius that they have. So I feel like looking it up and seeing what's around your area will be a better shot than me telling you like, oh, go to this restaurant. And then you find out it doesn't deliver to your area. So
yeah, that's a really good point. So I would recommend looking, exactly what Flower said. So I think looking on Google Maps, that's how I find a lot of the new restaurants that I want to go visit, because you can see people's comments and recommendations saying like, oh, I tried this, this meal and this was really good, but this wasn't as good as my mom's made, the way she made it, or something like that. And it's like really honest reviews. And so that's why Google Maps is sometimes one of the best ways to look up the reviews of a particular restaurant. And honestly, like if you go to a restaurant, leave them a review, especially if it's a small business, because I feel like that's one of the best ways to support a small business is to leave them a good review. I've been trying to be better about doing that, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. So many small businesses have kind of, struggled, and I've tried to be a little bit better about being supportive of them. So, leave them a review so other students and other people can see how much you enjoyed a restaurant. But ask the Indian Student Association about some restaurants too, because I think that there are students too who also want to eat home country food. So they're gonna know some of those good Indian deliveries. Or Indian restaurant deliveries. And I'm trying to think, there's another restaurant that's, I can't think of it. I'll see if I can find it on Google Maps. That's, Masala Walk. It's a fusion restaurant, isn't it, Flower? It's right down the street. It's in the Tom Thumb shopping area. That's Indian and Japanese, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's Indian and Japanese, so it's not just Indian food. I don't know if they deliver though, I will say that. I've gotten it And it was, to me, I thought it tasted good, but I also am not an expert on Indian food, so you don't have to take my word for it. So you can always try that. It's definitely on the Comet Cruiser route. But I would also recommend asking the Indian Student Association and reaching out to them. Okay, so our next question is, can I use my Indian driver's license in Texas for the first 90 days? There was a slight confusion with the wording on the website. Any help would be useful. I am gonna post, I would say the best thing to do is to reach out to the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. And so I'm gonna post that in the links.
I got you. I have the pulled up. I can post that for you.
Oh, I actually just posted it.
Oh, perfect.
Yes. I would say I'm not an expert on using other countries' driver's license. So it's probably best to send them an email. You should be able to find their contact information. There looks like there's a contact button right on their website. So I would contact them. You can send them an email and they'll probably reply to you within a couple business days. I know in order to get a US or a Texas driver's license, I'm sorry, you have to be a resident of Texas for at least 30 days. And you have to be able to prove that by like having a bill, or a lease, for your apartment, something like that, showing that you've lived here in Texas for at least 30 days. So I do not know of what it is if you're allowed to use your Indian driver's license. So my recommendation is to contact the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles and see what their suggestion is.
Katie?
Sure.
I've actually found, I'll post this link. It talks about like if you're driving with a foreign driver's license.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Let's see. Here, post it right under yours. But yeah, on there it does say you have, like, once you become a Texas resident, you do have to apply for a driver's license in 90 days.
So once you become a Texas resident?
Yeah, so you're allowed to drive with your foreign one for a little bit, and then, but once you do become a Texas resident, like once you start living here like full time, you do have to apply for one within 90 days.
Okay, yeah, so check out their website. But I would suggest still, if you have any confusion about that, it's best to contact the Department of Motor Vehicles because they're going to be the experts on that info. All right, so our next question is, could you please comment on the safety aspect of the ungated communities like Ashwood along the Comet Cruiser route? Like I said, I mean, Dallas is a large city, and so in any large city, there is going to be some type of crime, things like that. I don't think that we have any particular comments on ungated or gated communities, and I think it's best for you to think about how you can keep yourself safe. So, like I said, you can check out the crime statistics on the city's website. We have posted, or if you look at UT Dallas Police's website, they have information on like how to keep yourself safe. So think about ways, like if you're concerned about your own safety, like how do you keep yourself safe when you're in your apartment? Making sure your doors are locked, making sure your windows are locked, making sure when you're walking from the bus, you walk in a group, or you walk with another person. If you aren't able to do that, like text your roommate and say like, hey, just so you know, I got off the bus and I should be back to the apartment in this many minutes. So they know to expect you, and if something happens, they know to be concerned, something like that. So think of different ways that you can keep yourself safe and be aware. So always be aware of your surroundings. One of the things that the police officers always tell me is like, don't cut through shortcuts, always walk on lighted streets, always make sure that you're not playing on your phone. That's a big one. I know that we all have our cell phones and we all have games on our cell phones where we're always texting, but be aware of your surroundings so you're not, caught off guard or you don't accidentally cross a street into traffic or something like that. So, you being aware of your surroundings is staying safe. So I don't think it's necessarily about being, one particular community is safer or more unsafe than another. It's you need to be more aware and be keeping yourself safe. And it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, you know, communities on the Comet Cruiser are unsafe. It's just keeping yourself safe. And like I said, you can check out the UT Dallas Police Department website. Maybe Flower, you could if you want to take a, if you could put that website on there, that way they could take a look at just some of the safety tips that are posted on the UT Dallas Police Department's website. That would be helpful if you could post that. All right, we'll go on to the next question. Can the students living off campus apply for meal plans in the university? Yes. Anyone can apply for a meal plan in the university. I want to say there's different types of meal plans. So there are some that are like more specific to living on campus and some that are living off campus. And so I will post that website for you. Yes, anyone can apply for a meal plan. And you can go to the UT Dallas Dining Services website for that. And there's different types of meal plans. So just kind of depending on like how often are you going to be on campus? Where do you want to eat? Do you want to eat in the dining hall? Do you want to eat in the fast food locations on campus? Things like that. So you don't have to live on campus to apply for a meal plan. Now, like I said, in certain locations, if you're living on campus, you are required to apply for a meal plan. But anyone can apply for a meal plan. So if you're going to be on campus kind of often, that might actually help you, because that way you're not always having to bring your lunch or your dinner to campus, and you could just pop over to the cafeteria or go to one of the dining locations or something like that on campus. It might make it really easy for you, because then you can just swipe your Comet card and boom, you've got a meal prepared for you. You don't have to worry about it. And so it's really easy. Can I get a copy of this presentation or webinar for reference? Yes, if you look at the links that I posted at the very beginning, or if you just go to our International Student Orientation webpage, there is a YouTube link. And so within 2 business days, we will be posting this video. So you'll be able to see this presentation presented by the lovely Flower and the lovely me posted again. So you'll be able to rewatch it, or you can send it to any friends. So yes, it will be posted on YouTube. Someone is asking, why is the on-campus housing so expensive? Well, I think it's not necessarily that it's so expensive, but you have to think of the benefits you get when living on campus. And so when living on campus, you get a lot of different benefits. Like I said, you get the 24-hour on-call staff, you get most of the places are furnished, and you get a lot of different amenities. So you get all of the different things that are associated with living on campus, like the programs that are associated with. You get a lot of different things. You get social interaction with your students. It comes with a lot of perks. And so a lot of that is folded into the cost of housing. So you get all of your utilities and all of that is included in it. And so it might seem like it's very expensive up front, but a lot of those costs are kind of a lot of those costs that you might be paying off campus are actually kind of included into the costs of living on campus all at once. And so it looks more expensive than it really is, but there's also a lot of, like, you know, safety things. And, you know, when it comes to living on campus, you know, you have the police, UT Dallas Police, you have, you know, a lot of things that are really great about living on campus. So living on campus has a lot of perks, which go into, you know, making the price a little bit different. Can international students get contract phones? I don't really know about contract phones. Flower, do you know about contract phones?
I do not. I'm not too sure, like, no, I don't. Like, do they mean like just a contract to have the phone? Because I feel like that's typically how all the rest are, in the sense that you do sign a contract with the provider and you are able to get a phone while on that contract.
Okay, well, Tamara is telling me yes, that international students can get contract phones. So it's okay. So it looks like a contract phone is simply a phone just with a contract. Okay, so it looks like a contract phone is. Thank you, Tamara. Tamara's sharing our presentation, so she's unable to unmute herself. So it sounds like, yes, that's probably an option for you. So it might be something that you could do on like a shorter contract basis, and you might be able to do it a little bit differently than signing a longer contract or something like that. That might be a good question for a student organization or a current student, because I imagine a lot of students might be more interested in doing that, or might be interested in doing that. So you might want to contact maybe like the FACS organization or ISA to see how many students have gotten contract phones and if they would be able to give you any advice on that. Oh, and Tamara is saying that some companies have 1 or 2 years or month to month. So, okay, it looks like you have a few different options to do a contract phone. Okay, thank you, Tamara. I appreciate your help. All right. Can we book our off-campus housing even if we have not received an I-20? So I think that would be a good question for the management company of your apartment. So I don't know what all paperwork that management company or the landlord would want to have from you. So they probably want to know that you are admitted and intending to come to UT Dallas. They probably want to see a government issued ID like your passport. And so you can let them know that when you are planning to come here to the United States. If you haven't received your I-20 yet, you can let them know when it's going to be issued and when you're planning to receive it. They might not even ask about an I-20. They might not know what an I-20 is, because not everybody knows what that type of documentation is. But you can check with them to see what documentation do they need from you in order to rent an apartment, in order to like put down a deposit for an apartment. And then once you get here, what do they need from you in order to officially sign that lease? Let's see. Oh, we already got this question, so it's a repeat. How convenient is it to buy a laptop once we get there? Would you suggest Mac or Windows? And can we send the laptop we got with us back home once we buy a new one there? So do you think it's convenient to buy a laptop once students get to UTD, Flower?
Yes, I do. And I'm actually about to post a link to the tech store. We do have an on-campus tech store. Yeah. So we do have an on-campus tech store that you are able to purchase computers and other devices from, and they will be able to also help you in making a selection, because I feel like they know more about technology than I do.
Yeah, and the nice thing about the tech store's website, I actually used it to purchase a laptop for our office. They have recommendations based on like what school you're in. So, if you're a JSOM student or if you're a computer science student, here's some recommended laptops or laptop brands. Here's kind of the software you might be using. Here's things like that. And you can call them or email them, and they are so helpful, because I know when I was shopping for a laptop for our department, I had no idea where to start. And I just called them, and they gave me like a list of like 5 or 6 different recommended laptops to buy for our department based on like, here's what I plan to use a laptop for. And like one of them was using it for presentations like this, and so they really helped me out. And so it's always, I will tell you, their customer service is really great. And so I recommend even just talking to them, if you don't have to buy from them, but they were really helpful in just kind of narrowing down what kind of product I wanted. So, and that's when you were asking, Mac or Windows, they'll be able to kind of give you some some guidance in what would be the best thing for you based on what your major is, you know, and they'll know a little bit more because they'll know what kind of software you'll use based on your classes and things like that. And send the laptop we got with us back home once we buy a new one there. I'm not sure. I think that's kind of up to you. Is that something you feel comfortable sending through the mail? I know laptops are expensive. So, you know, how comfortable do you feel sending that, you know, in the mail, you know, internationally, and things like that? That might actually be a good question to ask the tech store. So they might be able to give you some guidance on that. Which are the good places to stay near to UTD and commutable by public transport in a 15 to 20 minute radius? Well, we had showed, you know, if you look at the 883 bus route, there are a lot of apartment complexes. So that would be my suggestion, is to take a look at the Comet Cruisers 883 map and see what some of those apartment complexes are on the 883 bus route. That's definitely within a 15 to 20 minute radius. We can't really recommend any one particular apartment complex or anything like that. That would be something you'd have to take a look at yourself, and also maybe talking to some of those student organizations or current students to see if they have any specific apartment complexes or specific neighborhoods that they recommend. Oh, and we got somebody recommending a good Indian restaurant. Kumar's is a good Indian restaurant. Was that one of the ones that you said, Flower? I can't remember.
It was not, but I'll definitely look into it.
Let's see, could you provide a timeline of what to do in chronological order as an international student after arriving? We do. So if you look at the published links, or the chat at the very top, I have links of our student checklist. So if you look, well, here, I'll republish it. We have an international student checklist. So we have the pre-arrival and the post-arrival checklist. So that would probably be the best resource for you. Now, this doesn't include like getting an apartment, or, well, it doesn't include like getting a bank account or things like that, but that is kind of like UTD resources, what you need to be doing next. Okay, so this is going to be really helpful for you. So take a look at our pre-arrival and post-arrival checklists, and that's going to give you a good timeline of things that you need to be getting done. All right, so apartments are not available for leasing in August. How can we get temporary accommodation? Well, I mentioned before that we have the ICP housing website. Flower, do you want to post that link? I do have a list there of some cultural student organizations who have helped students in the past. Like I said, some of them might not be able to help this semester due to COVID, but I also have a list on there of some hotels that are close to UT Dallas. So you might be able to find for like a week or so a room to rent. They're hotels and residence suites. So they do offer kind of like discounted rates for a certain amount of days. So on that website, you'll be able to find links to that. And so if you want to look at that website, that'll probably be the best way for you to find some temporary accommodation. It never hurts to ask current students if you could stay, if they have a place that you could stay temporarily. Like I said, just due to COVID-19, some of them might not be able to help you out, but, you know, like I said, you can always ask. But it's always helpful. Flower, did you have something to mention?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I get the TB test done in between my 7 days quarantine. This is probably best addressed to the Student Health Center. So we actually have a Student Health Center session next Tuesday. but I'm going to, let's see, you can email healthcen@utdallas.edu. They're going to be the best people to email that question to. So I sent you a private reply to the person who asked that question, because they are in charge of the TB test, and they will know the more specific information of whether or not you can get the TB test during when you're quarantining. Do we have any stores which deliver groceries at doorstep? I think there are some stores who do. You would probably, I think the best thing to do would be to check their app. So I think Tom Thumb might offer grocery delivery. You might have to pay extra for that delivery. I'm not sure about Walmart. I think they do deliver as well, but you also might have to sign up for a delivery program that costs a little bit extra. I know my neighbor was doing that. It also depends on the area in which you're living and if you're in their delivery zone. So I don't know. Oh, Leticia says Walmart does as well, so that's good. So yeah, so Walmart does. I don't know about Target. I haven't heard if Target's been doing deliveries. So you can check. I would recommend checking on their website. I remember I shop at Albertsons in my neighborhood, and Albertsons is owned by Tom Thumb. And if I want to get groceries delivered, Tom Thumb is what I'd have to go with. But I'm not in the Tom Thumb delivery zone, unfortunately. But Tom Thumb is close to UTD, so Tom Thumb might deliver closer to UT Dallas, which is kind of nice. So you can check to see if Tom Thumb would deliver in the apartments around UT Dallas. But Walmart, it seems like Walmart delivers. Like I said, you might have to sign up for like a delivery program, and it might just cost a little bit extra money. Have you ever gotten groceries delivered, Flower?
Yes, I actually do use Walmart to have groceries delivered.
Because you have all those brothers who eat all the food, right?
Yes. Well, now it's because I'm in my own apartment, so I have to be on top of it.
Oh, that's it. Flower has a lot of brothers who eat all her food. All right. Do all banks require a social security number to open a bank account? Okay, so the answer is most likely no, but if you don't have a social security number, they'll probably ask for an additional form of identification. So like I mentioned, if you don't have a social security number, they'll probably ask for some type of proof that you're a student at UT Dallas, like an admission letter or an I-20, something like that. So the best way to do it is to call the bank ahead of time and say, I'm an international student at UT Dallas. I don't have a social security number. What can I do to open a bank account with your bank? And they might say, oh, well, we just need a passport and a visa, or we need a passport and an admission letter or something like that. So that would make it helpful. So I always recommend calling the bank or looking on their website. Sometimes their website might not have an answer to that question because maybe they don't work with a lot of international students, but you can call them and you can speak directly to like a bank, like somebody who sets up accounts, like an account manager, and they will be able to share that information with you. Or you can even take the bus to the bank directly and just say, I want to set up an account, but this is my situation. And they might just be able to help you right there. It looks like, Flower, you're replying to that person's post, so I won't dismiss the question, or I won't publish the question. Okay. Are there any common Facebook groups or websites for finding roommates, or other than the student associations? I actually don't know. Flower, do you know of any Facebook groups or social media groups for finding roommates for UT Dallas students?
Honestly, I'm not too sure. I think the ones that I do know of, as they said, were the student orgs. I do know they do post things, and they do have like their WhatsApp groups or something where they're able to announce that. But I'm not too sure about like other Facebook groups.
Yeah, I think the only ones I know of are the student organizations that I see. So sorry about that. I wish we could give you more info. Among the many grocery stores, which is nearest from the university? And I see Flower already replied to that, but I'll reply in voice. Tom Thumb and Kroger are all less than 2 miles from the school. So yes, I know Tom Thumb is probably the closest, I would say. I think it's only about, what, 1 block from the school, almost walking distance from the school. I don't know if I'd want to walk on a hot day, but it's very close to UT Dallas. So if you're coming straight to the university, straight from the university, I would say Tom Thumb is probably the closest, and then Sprouts even is right across the street from Tom Thumb, and then Kroger is right around the corner, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So those are probably the closest grocery stores, and they're all on the 883 bus route, which is really nice. Somebody asked, oh, did you have something, Flower? Sorry, I thought you said something.
Oh, no, sorry.
All right. I'm not sure what this question is. Cycle routes. Maybe someone is asking about cycle routes. If there's any bicycle routes. Not sure. Do you know of any bike routes around the university, Flower?
I surprisingly do not, but that's also because I don't know how to ride a bike. I typically don't like
Flower. We've talked about this. You gotta learn. If you're looking for bike routes, I know Google Maps has an option when you search for directions, you can pull up bike directions. So that could be a good option if you're looking for bike routes to and from a location. And I'm sorry to say that I don't know of any biking routes around UT Dallas. So I don't know if Leticia or Tamara know of any either, but that might also be a good question for the Student Activity Center. They might have some information on that. So Flower, if you wouldn't mind putting the Student Activity Center's just information in the chat, that could be helpful.
Yes.
Right. Any recommendations for temporary accommodation? We posted our ICP housing page, so that's a good way to get some temporary accommodation. So Tamara also says that Google Maps is best for bike routes. So yeah, I agree with Tamara. Okay. Please tell the DART bus route. DART train route is readily available, but not for the DART bus. DART bus operates in Richardson. So yes, so the DART bus route. So on the DART website, it shows mainly the train. So if you go to dart.org, you'll see all the different train information. If you want to find the DART bus routes, on the UT Dallas website, it shows just the 883 line. So the 883 line is the free DART line for UT Dallas students, really for anyone. Anyone can ride the 883 route without getting charged. Now, other DART bus routes are not necessarily free, so check the number of the DART bus that you're riding, but the 883 line is the one that goes all around UT Dallas. It has the 2 different lines, and if you look at the DART map that Flower had showed earlier, and if you look at the DART the 883 website on UT Dallas's website, it's called the Comet Cruiser more commonly. You'll see the 2 different routes. You'll be able to see where it goes throughout the city. Now, Google Maps, I will say, is probably the best way to find the different DART bus routes. So Google Maps, you can look at like public transportation options when you're looking for directions on Google Maps. So that's how I've always found DART. And so like you could look for public transportation and it'll show you how to get there using a bus and how to get there. And then it'll show you what bus line to get on. So like when I wanted to get from the airport to UT Dallas, it'll tell me to take DART in which train, and then it'll tell me which bus line to get on to get from the train to UT Dallas. And that makes it really convenient because I know exactly what bus number to get on and where to meet the bus, and then where to get off at UT Dallas. Now, I know that just because I've worked at UT Dallas for a while, but you're a new student, you might not know that. And so I would recommend looking at Google Maps. And the DART website shows a little bit more about the trains, you're right. But Google Maps is really helpful when you want to look at the bus routes and see exactly what the bus numbers are. Now, keep in mind, like I said, the 883 is specific to UT Dallas, the UT Dallas area, but the other buses might ask you to pay to ride them. So once you're at UT Dallas and you're registered for classes, you can apply for a free DART pass, and that will give you access to all the buses and trains for free. So just make sure you get that free DART pass, and then you'll be able to ride all the buses and trains for free.
And I've also posted the DART bus routes and schedules. I fished through the website. And it has like a really good feature on the side where you're able to like plan your trip. So you're able to see where you're going. Like if you put in where you're going or where your destination is, where you're coming from and your destination, and when you want to go, it'll show you like which bus is going to be best for you.
Great. All right, I see someone asking about a state ID card. So you can also get a state ID card. So if you want to get a government issued ID, but not a driver's license, a state ID card is a really good option. So we already posted the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles website. That's where you can get a state ID. So it's very similar to a driver's license. It just doesn't give you driving privileges. So, it looks like Tamara is sharing Google Maps and the different ways to look up directions using Google Maps. Thank you, Tamara. That's a great idea. So that's how you can pull up looking at the DART bus and everything like that. So perfect. Oh, Dallas Fort Worth International Airport to UT Dallas. So it shows you taking the orange line. It shows you taking one bus line to another bus line, making it really easy. Or you could take two different train lines to the 883 bus. So you have a few different options. Thank you, Tamara. Looks good. All right. But regarding the state ID, so yes, it'll be a good government issued ID for you. So if you want to show proof of age for cashing checks, for if you want to go out to a bar and have, an alcoholic beverage, something like that. But it doesn't give you the driving privileges. You can still apply for that, and the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles is a really good idea. And so we already posted that website. So scroll up in the Q&A and you'll be able to grab that link and find it. This information is also in the pre-arrival modules. So this is going to be my plug. Don't forget to take your pre-arrival modules because I have state ID information in the pre-arrival modules, and find that information there. All right, how serious is the bug problem in Texas? Any tips to address this? I wouldn't call the bug problem in Texas very serious. So Texas is pretty warm year round, and so there are bugs in Texas. I mean, I'm not going to say no. There are bugs in Texas. That's just how it is. But I mean, most apartment companies, they have exterminators who exterminate, on their property and try to do, insect management control and things like that. So, I mean, I haven't heard of a lot of problems. I don't think that there are huge issues. I know that some students, who, maybe they're not used to this kind of weather, or they're not used to this, the kind of bugs that we have in Texas, like they might be a little surprised by that. But that's something like, you can keep some insect control spray in your apartment, and just know that you might occasionally get bugs in your apartment, and it's something to expect, but it's probably not going to you know, it's just something to remember, like don't keep food out on your counter that is not contained in a container. Don't keep unwrapped food out. You know, thank you, Tamara. You know, there are bug sprays that you can use when you're outside. So there's like Repel or Off or other creams that you can put on your skin. So that way, if you're outside, you can make sure that you are using those to make sure that you're not getting bitten by mosquitoes or other insects. You can, something I do is I follow my city's social media pages because they'll tend to report if there's any cases of, you know, high cases of mosquitoes or something like that. You can also make sure that you're keeping making sure you're reporting anything wrong with your apartment, like screens that are not in your windows, holes in your windows, things like that, to make sure that bugs aren't getting into your apartment and everything like that. So those are all good ways that you can help make sure that your apartment's safe and that you're keeping yourself safe. So like wearing, you know, you can wear tights with your skirts or something like that to make sure you're not getting bitten. I use citronella candles out on my patio if I want to sit out there so I don't have mosquitoes biting me if I want to enjoy my patio and things like that. If you have a balcony on your apartment, you can buy things like that. And I use sprays on my skin. Sometimes people don't like that because that, you know, maybe it smells bad or something like that, but it just might be something you'll need to think about. What's the one thing students complain about the most and what should we do to avoid them? That's a good question. I don't know what the one thing, I've heard a lot of students mention that they're shocked by the amount of variety of products in grocery stores. I don't know if that's a complaint, but I think that's something that students are always surprised about. They always tell me they're so amazed at like how many different options of cereal and how many different options of like bread and other products, and they never know what to choose. So be prepared that in the United States, there are there's a lot of variety of food options in the grocery stores, and you get to try a lot of things before you decide on what you want to purchase. I don't know, Flower, do you have any things that maybe surprised you, or that what would your answer be to this question?
I wouldn't really term it as a complaint. I think the biggest surprise to me was like the tip culture, like where you do tip people when they serve you, and tax being added after you purchase your item. That did come as a surprise. It's like, oh, I'm used to my VAT being part of the total price, but here, when you buy something, tax will be added at checkout.
Yes, that's actually a really good one. So the tax, when you look at the price on the shelf, the tax is not included, and tax is included at checkout. So your price will go up. That's something surprising for most people. Do scholarships cover the housing fee? I think that would be a good question for the person or the organization issuing your scholarship. So see what the scholarship is covering. So is it covering just your tuition? Is it covering tuition and fees? Is it covering tuition, housing, and fees? I think ask whoever is issuing your scholarship, or ask the financial aid office. Because different scholarships cover different things. And so that would be a good question for whoever is offering you the scholarship. All right, so I am driving my car from Mexico. Do you know something about my plate license for my car? Can I keep the Mexico plates? So this might be a good question for the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles. So I know that we've posted that link before. So you can check on their website and you can contact them to see how long do you have to change to Texas plates. So how many days do they require you to, or like how many days will they allow you to leave your Mexican plates on your car? Because I'm sure that you're allowed to leave it on for a certain amount of time. It's probably not like, oh, next day you have to put Texas plates on. I'm sure that at some point you will have to register your car in Texas. I know when I drove my car from Ohio to Texas, because I'm from out of state, I did eventually have to register my car in Texas. And to be honest, it was so long ago, I don't remember how long, but there will be a time when you'll have to register your car in Texas. But if you look at the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles website, they should have that information. And if you can't find it, I would recommend sending them an email or giving them a call and asking them that question. Where can I get furniture at a low price for my University Village apartment? Flower, do you want to post the UTD Big Howdy website? So Big Howdy is one of the organizations we work with. They actually have a furniture giveaway, so you can sign up to receive some free furniture. Now you won't get to furnish your entire apartment for free, but they do have a furniture giveaway program where you can sign up and maybe get 1 or 2 pieces of furniture that students will donate and other people in the community donate. So maybe like a chair and a desk or something like that. But there's also some furniture stores around campus. So Flower already mentioned like Walmart and Target sell furniture, and it's not too expensive. You can also find places online to purchase furniture. Craigslist is a good spot because it's places where some people might sell like used furniture that maybe they're trying to get rid of for an inexpensive price. There's IKEA, which that's a pretty global brand that a lot of people know about. Shipping costs might be a little expensive, but there's one not too far from UT Dallas, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not too far. So if you have like a friend with a car that, you know, you guys can join in together and I'll go purchase furniture together. So that's not a bad place to buy furniture, especially when you're trying to furnish in an apartment pretty cheaply. There's also like Home Goods, that's not too expensive, and Tuesday Morning, that's also pretty inexpensive as well. Yeah, I like that store. I go there.
It also has some good furniture for decent prices.
Yes, definitely. A lot of people like to sell on Facebook Marketplace too. I know in my neighborhood, a lot of people will try to sell, you know, used furniture and things like that. So take a look and see if you can find some used things if you can, because that's helpful. So, yeah, IKEA, Tamara just mentioned that IKEA is a little bit of a drive, but it is good. So. The Handshake app mentions that we need a permit for any kind of job, even part-time on campus. Can you explain what this permit is? So I would recommend talking to the University Career Center and also taking a look at the ISSO's website. So if you don't mind, Flower, if you can you post ISSO's like on campus, working on campus website? That might be the best place to direct students. So, you know, as an F1 or a J1 student, you know, you are allowed to work on campus, but you would need to, you know, you can only work on campus if you're an F1 student. So that information can go through the ISSO. All that information is listed on their website, and that paperwork goes to the University Career Center. So yes, it's through the Handshake portal. And so Flower can post that information. You can find that information on the International Students and Scholars Office website. And that would probably be the best information or best place to find that information about what that permit looks like. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by permit. And I think that's maybe you're confusing that. Let me take a look. Sorry. I just take a quick look to see what let's see. Yeah, I think you might be confusing it with on or off-campus jobs. So for an on-campus jobs, you really don't need a permit. So you're, any F1 student is allowed to work on campus, and you don't need a permit. So it just depends. You have to be physically located here at UT Dallas. Like you have to be, here in Dallas, taking your classes on campus and everything like that. So you can find those jobs on the Career Center's website and everything, or through the Handshake app. So you have to have valid F1 status and everything. But if you are going to work off campus, that's, either OPT or CPT work. And so all that information is found on the ISSO's webpage. So that might be what you're confusing it. And so that's the permit you're talking about is probably the OPT or the CPT. So the curricular practical training or the optional practical training. And so curricular practical training is, after I think it's 1 full year of study, and the optional practical training is after you've completed at least, your degree. So that's something that you'll probably learn about during your ISSO session. All right. I haven't found a way to arrange health insurance. Can you please clarify how I go about it? Okay, well, if you are an F1 or a J1 student, you're automatically enrolled in health insurance when you register for classes. So you will be automatically enrolled in health insurance, and you don't need to worry about that. If you are not, you can purchase that through the university's health insurance website. So we can post that information for you, and you don't have to worry about that because it makes it really easy for you. So you'll already have that. The student health insurance plan is absolutely excellent. It's pretty much the same health insurance plan that we get as employees. And it's great. So the SHIP, it's called Student Health Insurance Plan. I'm gonna look it up right now. See if I can remember the website. And it's very easy. So yeah, you're pretty much automatically enrolled as an F1 student or a J1 student. And so it's very simple. And so you don't have to worry about arranging it on your own. And next week, I recommend then for you, you're listed as anonymous, but I recommend that you come to our student health insurance and student health center talk on Tuesday, because you can ask questions to the student health insurance coordinator and the director of the student health center, because they will be able to answer a lot of questions that you might have about student health insurance, because we will have a very good session next week. Flower, can you post the student health insurance website?
Yes.
Sorry, I wasn't able to find it. Thank you. Going through all these questions. Any advice to students who applied for scholarships but haven't gotten any response and have to apply for the I-20? You can reach out to the scholarship committee or the scholarship department that you applied for just to check to see the status. It never hurts to reach out. It's just like applying for a job. You can always double check. But if you need to apply for your I-20, go ahead and apply for your I-20. You might need to go ahead and apply for that. You might need to show your proof of funding personally. So it's your personal choice of how you want to show your proof of funding, but you might not be able to, if you can't rely on that scholarship, you might need to show your proof of funding in a different manner. I hope that makes sense. Oh, I realize we don't have anybody on screen. I'm going to put myself on screen, guys, so you can see me. Let me send myself live. There we go. All right. Please tell the DART bus route. Oh, we already answered this question. Okay. Can I sublease in on-campus housing? That would be a better question for the housing office. So you can email housing@utdallas.edu. and they would be able to let you know whether or not that's an option. So I just private replied and sent you their website, or sent you their email address. Somebody's asking if I could see their question. Okay, let me clarify really quickly. So when you post a question, it goes just to us as private. So you will not see it published in the Q&A. And then we can see all of your questions, so Flower and myself, and then we'll go through them. And then as soon as we respond to them, we publish them to the public chat. So you don't have to keep posting them for us to see them. Does that make sense? So you can just post it once, and then we will post them as soon as we read them. So that way we'll be able to answer as many questions as we can. So sometimes I'm seeing some repeat questions that I'm just dismissing because I know that we already answered it. Like I just saw the sublease question come up a couple times. And that is, you know, it's okay. I know that you guys just didn't know that. So, all right, I see a question that I already answered. Okay. Is there any service where I can rent a bicycle? You know, there used to be. Let me double check. Used to be in the transportation. Let me double check, guys, because I can't remember. There used to be some kind of biking service. Let me see. But I don't remember if they still have it. It doesn't look like they have the bicycle renting anymore. I think this was many years ago when I first started at UT Dallas. No, I'm sorry. I wish there was, because that would be cool. I'll post at least this information about riding a bike on campus, so you can at least see the information, but this is bringing your own bike to campus. So it looks like there's no service at UTD to rent a bicycle. I know in some of the larger cities, I live closer to Fort Worth, they have, like in the downtown area, they have bicycles for rent where you can just like swipe your credit card, or actually you can use an app to rent a bicycle, and you rent it for a certain amount of minutes. I was gonna say, yeah, I think Dallas has the same program. Tamara just texted and said the same thing. Oh, but you think it might have stopped. Okay, so some cities have tried it out and stopped it. So you can check with like the city of Dallas to see that they still have that as an option. It can get a little expensive. So if you're trying to rent a bike for the whole day, yes, so Tamara's bringing up a good point, is that some areas have bike lanes, but it's not always continuous on your route. So when you're using Google Maps and you're looking at bike lanes, like bike routes, sometimes there's not always a bike lane. So that's kind of one of the tricky things about riding a bike here in the US. I'm an avid cyclist myself, and so you just have to be really mindful when you're riding in the street. Yes, you have rights as a cyclist. You are a vehicle and you're allowed to use the street, but not everybody realizes that. And so sometimes cars don't always want to give you that right of way. So there might be a bike lane on one road, but then you're on a different road, there might not be a bike lane. And so you can use the regular regular vehicle lane, but people might get annoyed and try to go around you. And so you have to be very, very careful with your safety. So I just caution you when you're riding a bike to be extremely careful. I don't want any of you getting hurt. So be very aware when you're riding a bike in the big cities. I live in a smaller suburb and I'm extremely careful. I barely try to ride on the busier streets. I'll even ride on the sidewalk because I don't want to get hit by a car. Not everybody wants to be careful of cyclists. So I just caution you to be careful. Does UTD have a Barnes & Noble? So no, UTD does not have a Barnes & Noble, but we do have a student bookstore where you can buy your textbooks, you can buy other school supplies, you can buy UTD branded clothing like t-shirts and polo shirts and things like that. It is not Barnes & Noble brand though. So you can find that information as well. And it looks like Flower already gave that information. So awesome, Flower. What support is in place for students that need to self-isolate on arrival if they're not able to go shopping for food or supplies? So there's, UTD does not specifically have support specifically for students who need to self-isolate. That's why we're giving you this information. So you can get food delivered, you can work out with a friend to maybe drop off food for you, things like that. So that's what we would recommend is so make those plans in advance of how can you prepare to self-isolate or quarantine if you need to. All right, we have a few more minutes for some questions. Can you comment on the converters for electronics like mobiles and laptops? I think it depends on what country you're coming from. I would take a look at, I don't actually know where to get that information. So, Flower, do you have any information on converters? Sorry, say tomorrow suggest Best Buy would be a good.
You can get from Best Buy. I've also seen universal converters at Walmart in the luggage section. You should be able to just ask someone who works in the store. They should be able to help you out.
Are there special discounts for students purchasing electronics like laptops and phones? Sometimes Best Buy and Walmart and places like that will give UTD discounts. If you use your Comet card, if you go to the Comet card website, you can see what places will give you a discount by using your Comet card. So a lot of places will give a Comet card discount.
Yes, and also if you're a Mac user, Apple does have a college student, a student store online, and you're able to get super good deals on there.
Yeah, I think Amazon does too, don't they?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, so and check with other electronics companies like Best Buy as well. Most places will give you student discounts if you just ask and say, oh, do you offer a student discount? Also, there's something called, I think it's over Labor Day weekend in September, there's something called tax-free shopping weekend where you don't pay taxes on anything. Well, not anything, but most things, especially things that they know students need going back to school. Take advantage of that. So you'll start seeing advertisements for it in August, tax-free shopping weekend. It's a really good time to buy things like that. All right. Let's see. Generally, when should we set up the electricity, Wi-Fi plan, insurance, and water plan? Before signing the lease or after signing the lease? You should probably set those up after signing your lease, because you're not going to want to set up your electricity and Wi-Fi plan until you are ensured that you have that apartment. So unless you know you have that apartment and you've signed a lease and you say you're going to be living there, then you'll want to set up your utilities. Okay, let's see. We already answered questions about furniture. Let's see. How's Northside reputation and feedback? I don't really know much about Northside. I know a lot of students, well, Northside is mainly for students and is very close to campus. So I think Northside is a very popular place to live. It has a lot of dining establishments too, right, in the bottom of it. I know I've gone over there to eat lunch and dinner with colleagues and things like that before. So I think Northside is very popular. I don't know about pricing. That might be something that you'd want to take a look at. So I'm not really sure what that looks like. I actually haven't been in any of the apartments. Have you been to Northside before, Flower?
I have, and I think their new north side like phase is also like open and stuff. So yeah, they're pretty good apartments.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, I have time for one more question. I'm fully vaccinated with vaccines approved from the US. Is it mandatory for me to undergo quarantine? So I posted links earlier, and so I would recommend looking at that. It has links to the CDC website and what their recommendations are. So UTD follows all CDC guidelines on vaccinations and quarantines, mask wearing, all of that. And so that is the best thing I can tell you. And so at the very top of the chat, I have all the links on what UTD guidelines for travel, quarantine, and CDC guidelines are. So that is the best way that we can recommend, is for you to do your research on that. Because that's how UTD follows all of the recommendations. Okay, so I highly encourage you to look at those links that I first posted, because that's where all the links are going to be for where this video will be posted, and where there's a lot of resources on those links. And so a lot of the questions that you might not have been answered from what Flower and I just did might be in that. So remember to do your pre-arrival modules. If you haven't completed those yet, they're part of your international student orientation requirement. There's also the new student guide, which has a lot of answers to questions. And so that's a virtual kind of guidebook for new international students. Tamara worked very hard on putting that together. So please make use of your time and her time and take a look at it, because it's got a lot of resources for UT Dallas students. Okay, but thank you so much for joining us, and we are so glad. If you did not get your questions asked, make sure to take a look at our website. I'll post that, and you can find a lot of answers to our questions, or you can send us an email, and I will send our email address here. But we hope to see you at our session next week about healthcare in the United States. And thank you so much for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.